Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Whip, and today we're going to talk about the New Mexico, the US Tier 6 battleship. What can we expect as we're all on that journey to Tier 10? Well, first and foremost, she has decent armor. Now, she is a ship that will have to be angled like all battleships. You should always maintain that angle because deflection and auto bounce, we want to maximize our HP. Now, this ship has just over 53,000 hit points, but one of the features that I like that gives her an advantage over other battleships in her tier, not necessarily the caliber of guns, but I would necessarily say it's the placement. She has 4 turrets of 3 main battery guns. They're 356 millimeters. Now, if there's one thing that I've noticed with how this ship likes to perform, not at extreme ranges. You get hits, especially when you launch the scout plane and you push out that maximum radius of fire, but you're not really going to land, a lot of effective hits. You can do it if it's like a softer target, like maybe a CV or a cruiser, and you just get that lucky RNG. But like on battleships, you're just gonna do kind of like normal damage if you're even lucky to get enough hits with the dispersion. But then there's something that really comes into play with this ship, and it's the way her guns behave at certain ranges. One of the things I've noticed since I've been playing this ship for quite a while, and I'll go over the modules that I have and some of the commander points and whatnot that I have, but one of the things I've noticed with how these guns perform is that at like 9K range to maybe about 12 kilometers, it's kind of really where the dispersion is bang on. You can put out a lot of damage, and especially against targets that aren't angling. When you have another battleship, you can very easily citadel, and I know that can be said for any battleship, but the dispersion isn't really much a factor, I would say, at about 10 kilometers. As you get outside of that 8 to 12 kilometer buffer, you start noticing the tail ends of the dispersion spectrum, as I would say, with this ship, where if they're in close, your round placement's kind of gonna go all over the place. And I noticed that when I shoot at destroyers and they're shifty and they're small, even if you're on with the way your placement should go, you'll notice that your shots, at 3 kilometers against a small target, just kind of tend to go all over the place. But when you're shooting at something that's at a medium distance, this ship is really, really good. The AA defense, it's not a whole lot to write home about, but it's pretty good. You're not necessarily gonna, take the brunt of a carrier's attack force, but if you're with the pack, it's good. The downside on this ship that I don't like is the maneuverability. When you first get this ship, you look at her modules, and the propulsion, 18.5 knots, right? Like that's crawling in some of the matches that you'll be in, and especially the things that I've noticed with this ship, I tend to get put in not tier 6 battles, but tier 7s, tier 8s. So you're constantly kind of overmatched by other ships. And that brings me to another downside. This ship sometimes has the tendency of really having her bow armor overmatched by tier 7s, tier 8 battleships. So it's kind of, you gotta really pick your battles depending on the lobby that you're in. And that's probably to be said about a lot of them. Now, I have the propulsion upgrade, so I'm sitting at about 21 knots. And I have, I believe, the 5% flag boost to speed. It probably gives me about an extra half a knot, but hey, it counts for something, right? It also allows you to kind of maneuver a little bit better and get around the battle and really stick to being in the pack and with the pack, so you're not kind of left out there and singled out. I have the magazine modification because nobody likes being detonated. We have our artillery plotting to try to further reduce some of that dispersion of our secondaries, because I seem to have such a hard time shooting destroyers when they're in so close when I'm in battleships. And I think if you guys have really learned to play this game, sometimes you'll struggle with that too. Damage control, because I don't like being set on fire or flooded, and so yeah. But let's just jump into a match here and see what the dispersion is, and hopefully I can kind of highlight for you guys the way these shells perform.
Enemy battleship sighted.
Alright, so we have a battleship here. He's at 14 kilometers. It's turning. So let's watch this dispersion right here. Mind you, I fired all of them separately, but I got 1 hit, 2 hits. And as we get closer, you know, and it could be the angling, but as we get closer, we get into this range here where you saw how at 14 kilometers, it was like butter, you know, it just kind of hit. But now we're at 11.
Spotter returning to ship.
And you see 2-3 hits right there. Throw in more, and then I'll tail out. But as he even turns away, you know, we're able to get more hits. And that's because at this range, these guns like the trajectory, the speed of the shell, you know, the flight time, it's all just kind of right for the gun.
Attention, reporting the target position.
And see, look at that dispersion onto that cruiser. And mind you, I only got 1 hit onto him, and I should have gotten more. But that dispersion, especially at that angle, it's pretty good. You know, a 5,000 damage hit. Look at the range. About 10 kilometers. You know, so this ship really likes to be in this range. And I'm going to swing out so I don't just die. Then we're going to try to take some long-range shots here. See, this is 14 kilometers.
The ship is on fire.
You know, so you see that dispersion there. We get 1 out of a full salvo. And that's not good, because now we have to wait to reload.
Problem solved, sir.
Now, can we hit this target at 16 kilometers? Absolutely. Can we do decent damage? Again, absolutely. It's a cruiser, right? But will RNG be on our side? It's highly unlikely, because that's not how the guns want to behave. Now, what's good for us? Well, in 10 seconds, we're going to have a cyclone, about 5 now, which means visibility becomes diminished, which means more so close quarter combat. 8 kilometers. 8-kilometer range for us, well, that's good because it allows us to get in close. It allows us to use our guns and our positioning at its most effective distances. So that's really where this ship shines. It's in that 10-kilometer range, and you saw it right at the beginning. Took a shot at 14K, and dispersion was kind of all over the place. But we took one at about 9K, and dispersion, it seemed like all the shells were stacked on top of each other going into the target. And so that's, like I said, that's where this ship absolutely shines. So we're gonna play out the rest of this, and then we'll do some post commentary as to kind of what my final thoughts on this ship are.
The enemy team has taken the lead.
Destroyed an enemy cruiser.
Impressions coming out of the battle, and I just want to point out, look, as I was saying, the trajectory go figure, I can't speak, but the trajectory of the shells is like pretty much optimum at that 8K to about 12 kilometers. At 12 kilometers, I feel personally that the dispersion tapers off for me. The guns aren't nearly as effective as I need it to be. Will I still take shots? Yeah, absolutely. Especially if the target's broadside, you have a much bigger chance of getting them. But, in that last clip, I was able to get almost a 3/4, maybe full salvo off at that enemy battleship. And I was able, without even a citadel, to do 12,000 damage. I mean, what more can you ask for from the dispersion? You saw the trajectory of the shells. You saw they were pretty much stacked on top of each other, and it was just tons of damage. Plus, it incapacitated a module. It took out one of the turrets. And so that's my final impression, is just, this is an awesome ship if you learn how she likes to play. It's great in that medium range role. If you're trying to camp with it, you're trying to stay at the back, you're going to find it a frustrating and difficult ship to play. But if you don't mind kind of getting into the fight a little bit, getting into the fray, you're going to have an awesome time with this ship. It's well worth it. And the grind getting through the New Mexico, it's going to be a fun one if you play it the way it likes to be played. And so with that, guys, look, if you liked the video, click the subscribe button, click that like button, show us some love. Clicking that subscribe button actually helps you stay in touch when we do these live streams, and so we can talk and chat with all you guys. So with that, peace.